A group of players find themselves deep below ground, hidden in a stash of their most valuable items as they prepare for the big finale of the Money SMP. Floativs, one of the best PvPers on the server and in fact in the world, is among them, the leader of the yellow team. They are completely unaware of the fact that their position has been compromised by red team using redstone's most elaborate weapon.
Come on! Let's go!
But how did red team minutes in advance know from the other corner of the world that yellow was here? This is the story of how I changed the Money SMP forever. It all began only 3 days before the start of the Money SMP, though it wouldn't be finished until the event was already well underway. SB737 had seen one of my videos, the wireless masterclass, and from it hatched an idea. A method to track players over very long distances. Simple to say, not very simple to build. The core of it is that when a player is online, the game loads and processes a chunk of the world around them. Mobs move, terrain renders, and redstone works. So, if you, hypothetically, buried a wireless grid across the map and made it ping a central control node always when it's loaded, you could track approximately where players are. And in fact, if we do check the replay, a couple hundred blocks from the commotion is a transmitter that had silently been giving away their position from the moment that they arrived at their stash. One of 64 just like it. That of course was the basic idea, but the execution was by far the hardest part. The largest problem was that wireless, conventionally, needs daylight access to function, but leaving the system above ground would expose it instantly. Bury it underground and you lose the daylight-based synchronization, which is a vital part of conventional wireless redstone. So I needed another way to synchronize two signals with no shared clock and no daylight. On the newest versions you can actually build a sulfur geyser for this. It has some natural synchronization properties. But at 64 transmitters that gets expensive really fast, and Money SMP was running on a version where geysers didn't even exist yet. Off the table either way. The alternative is almost stupid in how simple it is. Don't synchronize the clocks at all. Just make sure that the two clocks will eventually line up on their own. If two clocks tick at coprime intervals, say one every 19 ticks and one every 8, they're mathematically guaranteed to intersect, and not just once. Every 152 ticks without fail. Think of it like a slow clock that drifts one tick further out of phase each cycle, until it eventually laps back around and catches the first one. Work the math and you find that guarantee kicks in under 8 seconds. 8 cycles of the slow 19-tick clock checking against the transmitter that's firing every 8 ticks. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. The two clocks don't really know how to synchronize, they just will eventually no matter what. The first 2 days were used just developing the concept and a basic framework of how everything will work, coming up to basically this part. You have an 8-bit receiver that scans 8 transmitters at a time, and then it repeats this on 8 layers for the 8 sort of rows in the receiving panel. It uses something called wireless channel selection to connect to the different transmitters on the different layers. This will be covered in the next episode of the wireless masterclass. All you need to know is that you can wirelessly reconnect to different devices. Enlisting the help of some of my redstone friends from Esotech, we quickly put together a prototype. After our design collects the 8 bits for that row, it saves it to a sort of register, a section in a big piston-based memory that then transfers to the display. Now, originally each piston was wired individually to its respective pixel, which used a ton of observers, and we wanted to keep this system relatively cheap so SB could actually build it. So to resolve this, instead of transferring the state of each pixel, we simply transfer when it flips, as a pulse. And then those pulses get routed in a way whereas it routes the whole layer into one line of pulses, and then at the top decodes for that layer of the display separately. Now, after those values are combined from the piston memory onto this main central bus for each layer, they get spread out amongst all of these observers. And this system actually lets us select which row of the copper bulbs we want to transfer those bit flips onto. So because they're bulbs, you have to transfer the actual pixel state flips instead of the actual constant state like you would with a normal lamp. So the way that that works is that down here, you'll see that each of these layers gets the value no matter what, but one of these is held down. So all of the values that are not selected, so all of those rows, will slide back and forth as we're about to see, which makes it triggered twice. That means that those pixels will flip opposite state, then back to normal state, except for the row that is selected, where the pixels will only flip if their respective component lane is active. By the time we had a first working version, the event was already well underway on the 4th day. SB quickly got to work collecting the required resources, central to which was this comparator trooper, which works on the version the Money SMP was on. Until the end of the event, we basically iterated like this. He worked on getting it built, collecting the resources, and we worked on bug fixes and adding a few final features. Something we made that ultimately ended up not being used is this lever line here. It basically lets you select which rows you're scanning to accelerate scanning for specific regions of the map if you're base hunting, for example, in that area. A massive flaw with the system, and something that, while technically fixable, we did not have the time for, is that you actually need transmitters in the locations you're scanning, all 64 of them, and this took most of the build time for SB and his teammates. Not only does this mean that they had to go to every respective grid on the map to build the transmitter, but it also means that some of them got found and broken, which you would have no way of knowing. If you're interested in seeing how all of this can be fixed and how the system will be improved in the future, make sure to subscribe. I will be uploading a video on this whenever I get to it. I do also have a Patreon if anyone is interested in supporting me or the content that I make. In the morning of the last day of the event, it finally worked. They built all of the transmitters, everything connected, and it started scanning and detecting players all over the map.
They're still there. They're still there. There is somebody in the area within 10 chunks in each direction. Oh my goodness, it flipping works.
It worked almost too well, so if it gets banned, womp womp. I guess we'll have to do it on lifesteal. They spent the last day looking for bases and players. Effectively, SB was at the panel and called out all of the locations that were found, based off of map tags on the minimap that corresponded to the individual pixels and locations of those transmitters. Now imagine what we could do if we had more than a week to design the thing. Wink wink. And yeah, that more or less wraps up everything I had to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next month.